Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me again. I'm Sally Munro. I'm with Century 21 Platinum Realty, and it is Thankful Tuesday. So I have to tell you, I'm thankful for a lot of things today. And one is being here, two is the beautiful sunshine. And it is quite interesting what can happen to us from the time we get up at 6:30 in the morning to being here. So today we get a chance to talk about the statistics that the real estate board released just a couple of days ago. And I am so delighted that I have with me Greg Bowker today. And Greg has been in the appraisal industry since the 90s. He is the founder, owner, and chief bottle washer at Harrison Bowker. And so please welcome me and join. Here we go. Say hello to Greg. Hi, how are you today?
Hi, Sally. How are you today? I'm doing well.
I'm good, thank you. I call it Thankful Tuesday. Yesterday was Motivation Monday. Tomorrow will be Wisdom Wednesday as we move through all of this, right? So,
or Windy Wednesday.
Sorry, or windy, or windy,
Wednesday.
Yeah, Windy Wednesday for sure. Windy Wednesday. Well, I'm really delighted that you can pop in and chat with us. Sure. You did a couple of times the past few weeks. It's hard to believe it's been so many weeks, right? It just kind of, but we're living in each hour and making it matter. That's why it's just kind of dissolving. But people are always interested in statistics, right? So for me, the stats are quite interesting. So I'm going to see if I can actually pop these stats up here and see if this will work. But in the meantime, I'd love to hear what's been going on in the appraisal world. You guys are very busy. I think you have a team of 10. You yourself, I think, specialize in very special appraisals. That would be from foreclosures and matrimonial situations, right, residential and commercial. But I think you have a team of what, about 10?
Yeah, we have a team, a little over 10 appraisers. I have a focus on the residential, and I have some two other partners in the business that have a focus on farms and commercial, industrial, etc. Yeah.
I understand you service quite a large area, even outside of Edmonton. I think you service Calgary, Edmonton, Camrose, and
yes,
between.
Yeah, thank you. We have a satellite office in Calgary, and we have an office in Camrose. And by virtue of our client base, we cover almost east and west, border to border, to the BC border and to Saskatchewan, and up as far as Fort McMurray on occasion, and of course Calgary and points south from the Calgary office.
That's a wide area to cover.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Great. So how have you and your team finding the industry? The last month, April, we'll talk about April, even though we've all been in lockdown since the middle of March.
Well, certainly these aren't normal times by any stretch. We have remained relatively steady, but certainly below seasonal norms for general business activity. And I would say waiting this out as best as possible, just to see what the market does, and as people get back to work and businesses start thinking about expanding again, and people have financing needs, and the market normalizes, we would anticipate that we will pick up. It could be slowly, it could be almost a 180-degree turn. It's really an unknown, so we have to be prepared for any eventuality. But it's really difficult to speak about numbers yet, I would say, Sally, because we're in the grand scheme of things in early days. We've only been in lockdown for, I guess, only for 6 or 7 weeks.
Yeah.
And the market wasn't adjusting pre-shutdown, but by any measure, because it happened so drastically and almost immediately.
Right.
So what I guess I could tell you that our observations so far is that we kind of think that the values have come down a little bit, but that's just instinctive more than anything. There have still been I would say, a reasonable level of sales or number of sales through the Edmonton board over the last month and a half. It did drop quite dramatically in the first 2 to 3 weeks of the lockdown.
True.
There was very, very little activity and general nervousness in the public about this COVID-19 and how transmittable it might be. And we have found that a lot of people in the public have relaxed a little bit about it and have become a bit more accepting of it, and so are more receptive to having appraisers come into their homes to complete full appraisals. We were, for the first 2 or 3 weeks of the lockdown, doing a lot of virtual inspections.
Right. Oh, yes. You introduced that to us, 6 weeks ago?
So homeowners were providing us with a FaceTime or WhatsApp virtual walkthrough of homes, and then maybe following that up with interior photos. And that was an acceptable means with which to provide a full appraisal for all of the charter banks and the other institutions locally that we know of, the ATBs and the service credit unions, et cetera.
So that protocol is still in place, right? In the event homeowners are still reluctant to allow people in their space?
If they don't want us in there, or if we feel at risk, so if somebody in the home or the property is exhibiting symptoms,
mm-hmm.
then they are effectively in lockdown, and we shouldn't be going in there.
True.
If everyone seems healthy and our appraisers are all healthy, nobody has shown any symptoms, then we're doing full inspections, but on an expedited basis. So we're still going through the property, but taking much less time than in the past, and perhaps taking more photos and then taking notes immediately upon leaving the interior while
right.
the information is fresh.
Mm-hmm. So I've put up here, and this is information that the real estate board releases. And I think there's been a couple of news articles already. Yesterday, I think the Journal wrote about this. And I think you can see the screen, right? So on this side here, they're talking about the current month's sales. I think you track the number of sales. So this is residential in Edmonton. And they reported 750 sales, which were off by 35.4% compared to last year, the same time period. Which, would you agree that because of the lockdown, this number is different compared to last year?
Yeah, the numbers are down for sure in volume. Averages, we don't pay a lot of attention to, especially when there's such a small data set.
Right.
But I do know that since the lockdown, I've just been tracking the number of sales on a 7-day rolling average on a week-to-week basis.
Week to week.
And they dropped fairly dramatically in the first 2 or 3 weeks. They troughed 3 weeks ago and have since come up and flattened out slightly. So off the bottom of the trough on a week-by-week basis, the sales volumes for single family and also single family and condo mixed in the broad Edmonton market, so including St. Albert, Sherwood Park, et cetera, it is up about 20 or 25% on sales numbers from the trough. So hopefully that's a trend that we'll see continue, and hopefully that trough won't be revisited by any sort of other external shock.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yes.
Yeah, the board is reporting active listings of 7,237 active listings. Year to date, last year, I think it was, as you can see there, 9,207. And I think that, again, is because of the lockdown. So I think moving forward, we need to focus on May and June. And it is, I think, a moving target weekly. It's probably a really great idea. You know, the other thing that I was mindful of, you know, you look at the year to date statistics as well. We had just come out, I think, of a really brutal January, February, March too, the weather. So the weather, I find, if January is a great month weather-wise, the market starts. But it was, from my memory, it was pretty cold in those first 2 months.
Yeah, as I think you're right, Sally. The entire winter, looking at it in the full scope, was not a bad winter, but I think it was worse at the end.
Yeah.
So, all things equal, without COVID, I believe that there would have been some pent-up demand, and the market would have been much more active in March and April.
March and April, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm looking forward to hopefully that pent-up demand as things, loosen up a little, and we all still have COVID protocols in place for showing properties, and especially if they're occupied, vacant properties as well. That
Yes.
we'll see. I think we're going to see maybe a far greater movement in May and June. Albeit everyone's concerned about prices, right? Where is the market going to be? Are prices going to fall? I don't know if you have an opinion on that, based on supply and demand, lack of jobs, the oil and gas industry, a whole host of things that we already were suffering from in Alberta.
Well, we have been dealing with a variety of headwinds in this province now for the better part of 5 years, to varying levels. So this is an extreme example for sure, and in particular, I would say the price of our export commodities are under some real pressure. But if you look at some of the action that's being taken on a global scale to reduce the supply, these things will come back into balance. It's just a bit painful between now and then.
Yeah, I think we just have to, move forward through. I like that. Watch week at a time, right? And then, of course, the thing about data, right? I mean, it is averages. So the average days on market they're showing for a single family is, I think it's 58 days, versus last year it was 55. I think in the end, what I see as a realtor, from neighborhood to neighborhood, some neighborhoods there's no supply, right? Others there's tremendous supply. So, I really think that, when it comes down to analyzing whether you're going to sell or buy in this market, I think it depends on where you're moving to. Are you moving up or moving down? But would you agree with the statement I like to subscribe to, is that if you're moving within our Edmonton and greater area market, buying and selling in the same market typically is about the same. I mean, if prices fall 10 or 20%, then, no one's immune.
Right. If you're selling in a down market and you're buying in a down market, there is that offset. And just similarly, if you're selling and buying immediately in an up market, then you get to take advantage of that when you sell, and you have to deal with the other side of it when you buy. I do think that certainly I hear your point that in some neighborhoods there still is a tight supply. There are neighborhoods in this city that will continue to be in demand, and most of those are centered around the university and in some of the older core neighborhoods in the West End and the South Side, and to the east to some extent, into Strathern and Bonnie Doon and those sorts of areas. And they just seem to have ridden out the broad downturn quite well over the last half decade. And you're right, you can drive around in some of those neighborhoods block after block and maybe not see anything necessarily that you might like. So I don't think there is a flood of quality properties on the market as a result of this.
True. In some of those neighborhoods you mentioned, do you think that part of the demand has been a lot of the infills and being allowed to, if your lot is 50 feet wide, people are splitting them up?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Well, that's That's a given. I understand that's a fairly softball question you lob at me, but the values in those core neighborhoods have been driven, I would say, predominantly by the
Right.
underlying value of the land going up.
Mhm.
So the broad market started to taper off in 2015 when oil came under pressure, and a lot of the core neighborhoods saw values continue to rise into 2018. And I would say 2018 they took a bit of a breather and are just in a bit of a holding pattern. But it 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 really was all about the land. It was about the dirt. So people were buying properties to tear them down and build large single family, or split the lots, or build semi-detached. And even if that wasn't your plan, if you just wanted to live in a nice old 50s or 60s built home, you were competing with builders and others who were speculating in the land.
True. Well, I mean, there comes a point though where does it make sense? How much can they pay, right, for a piece of dirt too? You know, you pay 600,000. That means each side is 3 plus demolition, and then you put something on top. So, yeah, it's interesting. But you know, I'm still always optimistic and hopeful for the market. I think that moving forward, we'll figure out a way to get through this. I think you've heard me say this before, Albertans, somehow we're survivors. Sometimes we're in it a lot longer than we plan to be. I think we're in our year 4 or 5. People debate that, whether, you know, it's been a tough go for almost 5 years in the province. But yeah, there's definitely, you know, a lot of people that are quite concerned about things such as what happens after, you know, they can no longer make the mortgage payment. I know one of your areas of specialty is working for banks and things like this. Do you see already an increase, or was there already an increase in our marketplace in the first quarter, like the first January, February, March, of foreclosures? And do you anticipate those numbers rising due to lost jobs, etc.?
Right. Based on the volume of work that our office would traditionally get in that first quarter, I wouldn't say that the first quarter of 2020 was any different than the last 2 or 3 years.
2019 and
right. Yeah. So fairly stable and steady. The volume of foreclosure files for law firms going forward post this reaction to COVID is not something that my crystal ball is particularly clear on, except other than I would say instinctively there will be more people that are in some tough financial conditions.
Yeah.
And it may take time to sort of work itself through, and the banks on average don't really want your property back. So hopefully there is are some programs in place where they're voluntarily or being made to work with homeowners, but sometimes that's a Band-Aid solution. And then it could be 12 to 18 months from now when some of the effects of this market and this downturn in the economy start to show a little bit more specifically in the real estate market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that it's too early to predict. I agree with you. I think that we'll know a lot more by the end of this year and into next year. Right? I think right now we're faring okay. We're seeing people making offers on properties. Granted, Greg, it's a challenge. It's a grind for sure. You know, buyers are, you know, a majority of the market, I think what happened with COVID just sort of, you know, stepped off to the sidelines, right? And just sort of put everything on hold. There are people that need to move that maybe have sold their homes, and they're making buying decisions. But you know, the list to sale prices, we're seeing a bit of a gap. The offer prices where people are starting, we're seeing that, well, they're they're trying to hedge their bets too,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Even though they
Sure.
need a home. I mean, nobody ever wants to overpay,
Hmm.
but in the residential side of things, I always say that you need to make when you're buying something, you need to really think at least in increments in Alberta, always 5 years.
Right.
You know,
No,
granted,
agreed.
yeah, granted for the last 10 to 12 years, it's been in certain sector, you know, some clients have
Hmm.
purchased, say, in 2007, 2008. You know, we didn't see a lot of, you know, people didn't make a lot of climbs, depending on where you were, as you said, in certain neighborhoods, right? Definitely the new markets. I moved some people last year, a few, and jobs take you to other places, and you know, they didn't really break even, but
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
always say there's a cost to live, right? So sometimes
Yeah.
you have to chalk it up to that. You just move to the new job. And I like to subscribe also to the thought that if you're vested anywhere in Canada for a period of 25 years and keep making those payments, that you'll pay off that mortgage, right? It's a forced savings account for sure.
Hmm.
So what I'm hearing you say, one, it's too early to predict where values will go, correct?
Yes, yeah, I would agree. I would add to your comments, Sally, that in no way has anything gone to zero in this short time span. So even in the first week or two after the lockdown, there were still properties that were being purchased. There were still sales in the market. So people were still willing to take a quote unquote risk.
Mhm.
And the market continued to show activity up until today. So,
True.
and as I mentioned, we are off the bottom. We're off up from the trough of sales numbers from about 3 weeks ago. So uh, the values show general stability. Will they come down in the short to medium term future because of the reaction to COVID and other macroeconomic forces?
Mhm.
Quite possibly, but the market will continue to show activity because we have many people in Edmonton that just want to sell one property and buy another. So
True.
yeah.
Change. Humans need change. They like to change their environments and things
Hmm.
like that. So there's definitely a portion of the market that will continue to do that, right?
Hmm.
I mean, I'm looking forward to, you know, I'm taking the attitude that the market just stopped, right? It just stopped. Activity stopped. So now that we're into May and, you know, a lot of jurisdictions are opening up, right? People seem um, more optimistic. They're moving around more. The weather's changed. I think a lot of that will make a difference in our
Hmm.
market.
Hmm.
And you're right, it hasn't gone to zero. So
Hmm.
I don't see that happening, right?
No,
So,
no.
but it's supply and demand, right? So Alberta has been a market, I think, based on, you know, negotiating. It's certainly not like markets in the past that we've heard of, like in San Francisco or New York, where you line up on Saturdays, or Vancouver as well. I mean, Vancouver market's been interesting as well, right? So I must say, even during COVID, licensed in British Columbia as well, Greg,
Mm.
and
Okay.
our office in Vancouver with listings, people were still attempting to view properties. They were
Mm.
anxious to get inside, even though a lot of it was, you know, locked down. We
Hmm.
have
Hmm.
clients who are at risk, and then of course we, you know, see offers that were made unconditional, no viewing, but for an egregiously lower number, right? If
Right.
you take the risk, you write cash, it's certified, whatever. So but I think that they too will move forward in BC. But it's certainly Alberta has just always been, we're special. How's that?
Okay.
We're special. But you've managed to stay here since the 90s. So that's what, 30 years now, Greg?
Who's that's pretty good math, Sally.
That's well done for you. Well, you know what? Here, I want to share something with you. Let's see if I can do it. You know, I'm always learning new things all the time. Let's see if I can find it here. Where we go? Hang on. Uh, do these people look familiar to you?
Oh, Sally, the screen size
Oh,
is so small.
okay, hold on. Is it small?
Yeah, because
Mm.
I'm on my phone. So
Oh, right. I totally forgot. Hang on 1 second. 1 second. I actually want to scroll back up to this. Well, let's see. I just wanted to get it on here. You know that this stays recorded, right? So there we go. Okay, hang on 1 second. So we're going to share the screen again. And that's what I'm sharing actually is in fact your website.
oh, okay.
Yeah. So there's Greg and
I do
Pat,
recognize those people. Yes.
Jordan, Mark, Deidre, cool spelling, Alyssa, Ryan, Stephen, Eldon, Daryl, Laurel, Jermail,
Jermel.
Richard, Jermel. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Richard, Ben, Jacob, Chris, Jacqueline. Oh, that's Jacqueline Bourgeois. Any relation? Yes, to
Yes.
Michelle Bourgeois. Okay,
Yeah.
and John Urbano. That's quite the team you have.
Yeah. We're quite blessed.
Yeah, it is, and everybody is safe. And
Everybody's safe and healthy.
let me see
Thank you.
here. Look at all the services you provide: commercial appraisals and residential. Their website is very easy to navigate. I'm impressed.
Okay. Good. Nice to have that
Farms
feedback.
and acreage appraisals is fantastic. And let's see what else do we have here. Oh, reserve. Oh, now that's an interesting one. Reserve fund studies, all the condos.
Right. Yes. Yeah, we do
Fantastic.
those.
Yeah, those are absolute must. And insurance cost appraisals. Okay, so those are done typically for.
Well, they're often done for condo boards also,
Okay.
but there are people that need to perhaps vet their figures coming from their insurance company, and they just want to make sure that they have proper coverage.
Oh, good. Oh,
Mhm.
okay. That makes sense. And look at this expropriation and legal support services. Ouch. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. No, that's cool. Whoa. And here's some contact information. So they serve oh yes, all of Alberta. Look at this.
We're easy to find.
You are. Head office is in St. Albert. There's your office in Calgary, Edmonton, and Camrose. Isn't that fantastic? Harrison Bowker. Fantastic. And there's the team again. Wow. Pretty impressive, Greg.
Thank you, Sally.
I
Thank you.
am very, very impressed, right? And I'm impressed that I've known you for so long.
We
There
have
you
known each
are.
other for a while.
There
Yes.
you are. Okay, I know you can't see it because you're looking at your phone, but trust me, I can see it larger than life. Right? So,
Thank you, Sally.
I thank you. I know that your time is always limited, and I appreciate you stopping by. And so, words of wisdom. Should people be concerned about, the news reports things quite differently, and when you saw this, I saw this, right? It says, I think that article I saw yesterday, it says, 55% down, right? I mean, that sounds horrific, yes?
Mm.
But you have to understand how it's correlated, right? A lot of people go, oh my God, values dropped 55%. See, I've had those questions. No, 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 no.
No,
There's
no.
been just no activity because we've all been, on the sidelines and locked in. Yeah. But overall, I think it's more like in Edmonton, about 35% down. Now that sounds a little, see, number of sales is down 35%. Considering we're all locked inside, that's not bad. So I
Yeah,
agree.
that number jives a bit more closely with the sales volume change that I've observed.
Right.
Yeah.
See, so that sounded better to me than 55, right? But like I say, it's statistics, so they're based on the averages, right? I mean, these
Hmm.
reports are available. They're public. Um, the real estate board does release all these housing stats, and they also release across Canada too. So I think in other markets felt the they felt the same things that we in Alberta have felt. Everybody is indoors, and I think now I'm looking forward to a little more activity in May.
Hmm.
So
Me too. Me too.
you too, got to
Yeah.
get busier. Yeah, I'm
Hmm.
looking forward to being busier
Yes.
for sure. Well, I thank you for being here, and so a couple of parting words. Tell us to be optimistic or not.
Oh, I think so. I think this time in this environment where we're dealing with COVID, and now the slow unwinding of some of the restrictions will be an interesting time. And of course, on the macro, in the macro picture, we have the movement of the commodity prices, which is always going to have an impact on the Alberta economy. So if you think that those are going to get better, and I think that they will over time, then I think you have to be somewhat optimistic.
I agree. Well, I appreciate those words. We'll look forward to lots more activities. So, is most of you, one last parting question, majority of your work you're doing right now, is it for institutions, or can people just pick up the phone and call you if they want to understand the value of their home, and if they're thinking about refinancing?
There are, yeah, I would say still 50 to 60% of our work is done for the lenders for
Okay.
people's new financing or refinancing.
Okay.
We do a lot of legal work at our office, and Court of Queen's Bench is closed. So most of that work is in a holding pattern, and has been for about 6 weeks now. And I don't think that will come back at any material level for probably another few weeks to a month as Queen's
Great.
Bench
Yeah.
starts to open up again.
Yeah,
So,
that's
and that legal work involves
mhm.
matrimonial settlements and estate settlement, foreclosure work, that sort of thing. So that's another fairly significant aspect of many appraisal firms.
True. Well, my prediction is you best get ready, sharpen up your pencils, get out your tape measures. They're all, I know you don't use a tape measure, but I think you're going to get really busy. I'm looking forward to
Okay.
getting busier, right? So that's what I always say. We're going to get better, bigger, and busier. I want to thank you so much for joining us today. And I wish you and all of the people at Harrison Bowker a
Thank you,
buoyant
Sally.
spring. Okay. And
Thank
come
you.
back
All the
and
best to
join.
you too.
And thank you for your comments today as we try to analyze the April statistics. But I agree. I think we'll set that aside and move forward. May and June,
Yeah.
make it matter.
Okay.
Right? Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for joining us today. Bye for now, Greg.
Bye, Sally.
Bye, sweetie. So that was Greg Bowker from Harrison Bowker, and as you can see, Greg's 30 years of experience working in this market, and a man of integrity. And we can certainly count on Greg and his staff as we move forward. And I'm optimistic. I particularly think I agree with him that we should look forward to May and June, and as we figure things out. So it's changing week by week, right? And it actually, when you think about it, we did sell 750 properties in Edmonton in April. So considering, the mandatory lockdowns, it was actually very, very good. So before I leave you today, I wanted to share with you, and I should be able to do this. And so we do have, in fact, a new property I wanted to show you today. So let's see, bear with me while I switch over to this. We're always trying and learning. So let me see. Anyway, so this is a fantastic new luxury property in the properties of Donsdale, and I wanted to share with you. Let's see if I can get it working. So I think I can. I've always tried. So there it is. 1 second. I can do this.
Welcome to this beautiful home
Look
at
at
803
this.
Drysdale Run in prestigious Donsdale. As you
So that spectacular residence is coming to the market, and the price is $2,499,000. It's located at 803 Drysdale Run, backing onto the ravine in the properties of Donsdale, a community of spectacular estate homes. And you please visit my website. It is available to view, even though it is owner occupied with COVID protocols in place. And we do have We do have a voiceover. So as you can see, I'm learning all of this, but we have two versions of that video, one with a voiceover and one just as I just showed it to you. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me today. And as I say, it's Thankful Tuesday. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going into the community, and I'm sure many of you remember Flowers by Merle. So Howard Worrell is joining me tomorrow and giving us a tour of Flowers by Merle. It has been around in Edmonton. I think it's a household name. So I look forward to getting to know Flowers by Merle, and we'll find out more things from Howard. We've known him for some time, and I look forward to that. So please, I'm available. Call, text, email. I look forward to hearing from you. If you have any questions, by all means, do give. We have 3,200 realtors still, and they're all available. So if you have a favorite realtor, please pick up the phone. And I noticed that a viewer indicated that she's had a couple of realtors tell her her home isn't worth what she paid for it, but you know, it's May and June will tell the tale for sure. And please, you know, like I said, God bless us all. Will keep us safe. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow live at 1 p.m. when our guest will be Howard Worrell from Flowers by Merle. Thank you for joining me today, Greg Bowker. I'm always delighted to hear Greg's wisdom. He takes a very practical approach to our real estate market, and he's always has his finger right on the pulse of the real estate market. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to cut today a little shorter. We had to call the ambulance today. My husband had an allergic reaction to something, so you know, COVID-19 kept me from going to the hospital with him. But I'm actually going to leave you now. Please take care of yourselves, and I'm going to go and hang out in the hospital parking lot at the Grey Nuns. So I was thankful today that when I called 911, that they were here very quickly. So thank you to all of our first line responders, the doctors, the nurses, and everybody that cares so very well for us here in Alberta. God bless you, and we will talk soon. Bye for now.